It's nothing really short of incredible.
Fish on First Live, presented by La Pop. That's LAPOP. And we have a lot to talk about today. We're going to get into Yuri getting sent down. We'll talk about the previous series against the Cardinals. We're going to talk about Dane Myers in his first series. And then we're going to start talking about this Marlins upcoming series against the Phillies. I'm here today with our panel of Fish on First staff. We got Kevin up top, Eli and Carver at the bottom. So we're going to start out here. The biggest news of the day, Yuri Perez going down. We kind of expected this when he came up, but due to some injuries to the likes of Edward Cabrera, he stayed for a little longer than we probably thought he would. So, Kevin, I want to get your reactions right away. What was your thought, and what do you think the team's going to move forward with now?
Yeah, I saw it coming. I think we all did. I know some of us disagree with it, and I think it was this exact same panel when we spoke about the possibility that maybe Yuri would be making his final start at the big leagues, and obviously, that wasn't the case. He made a lot more of those, and I think it was 11 to be exact, or 12, and he's now getting sent back down to Double-A Pensacola. Hopefully, he's back up soon, but it made sense. I believe he's at 53 innings pitched now. His limit is 115 to 120. We aren't sure on the exact number, but it's around there, and if you want to conserve him for the postseason, it made sense to maybe send him down. And I know Eli said this, put him in the bullpen. I wholeheartedly agree. I think the bullpen would be a great spot for Yuri. He would be the most overqualified pitcher in that bullpen, I think is the way you could put it. But yeah, I mean, he looked great. He looked great in the big leagues. Let's start off with that too, because he was great. There's no other way to say it. He made some pitch usage changes, but besides that, he was really damn good. He really emphasized the use of the slider, and he spoke about it yesterday, how much he's been liking the use of that slider. And, I think the changeup is really just due to the sticky stuff in Double-A. Maybe just not being able to adjust off of that is what I'm kind of starting to realize. But aside from that, Yuri was great besides one blow-up start. He's obviously getting that big league experience with the guys like Sandy. I know Edward is someone who he really got along with. So can't be disappointed. I know some folks are going to be not happy with the decision, but it made sense. And I'm a little surprised it wasn't AAA. I know we were talking about this today, but I'm surprised it wasn't AAA. I would have liked to see him there, see if maybe, if you could stretch him out, but I know their intention is to bring him back. So highly unlikely that we will see him in AAA, and he'll just skip the big leagues right again. Just get AAA to get to the big leagues.
Yeah, well, Kevin said a couple times you can't be disappointed. I'm disappointed. A lot of people are disappointed. It's
I know, but come on.
Yeah, I think what we can say is that there is like a case to be made for this. It's not totally black and white. As much as I disagree with this, like I see what the team is trying to do here, which is understanding the history. Actually, there's a great tweet from Aram, our boy Aram at Just Baseball, just about the fact that he is so young. That's the biggest component here, is how he's the youngest player in the big leagues this year and the youngest pitcher in Marlins franchise history. It is so unusual for especially a starting pitcher to be this young in the big leagues. They have given him already a full third of their season. He's been in their rotation. That's because he has earned it, and he's been incredible during that stretch. At the same time, this is just such a big departure from what he's used to doing. He is already, between the majors and the minors, he's now thrown 84 innings this year. That is more than he's ever thrown in a season already, and we're barely halfway through. Historically, as best as we can see it, these guys, they're at a bigger risk of injury if they take too much of an unfamiliar spike in workload compared to what they're used to. And that's why you see with young pitching prospects that they gradually increase their workload more and more one season to the next. And then eventually, a few years really into their major league careers is when the training wheels come off and when they're fully exactly what they want to be. And it's such a complicated decision for the Marlins because of how good Yuri has been, and because of the fact that the team is a contender, and that at this moment, the alternatives to him are awful. They're so awful. The next man up, I should say, is particularly uninspiring, Johnny Cueto. And then beyond that, it just doesn't get a whole lot better for a while until these other guys get healthy. So that's the other factors involved in this. I understand the general workload suppression. In my opinion, as I voiced already on Twitter and elsewhere, and even leading up to this decision, I would have liked to see him move to the bullpen, especially now because their bullpen is actually down a couple guys as well. So there's room for him to contribute there while also keeping his workload at a relatively manageable level until such time that maybe it makes sense to put him back in the rotation later in the year. He's one of their better pitchers. And so the bottom line is I just don't understand. I can't get on board with sending one of your better pitchers to the minors when you're trying to win, when he's looking 100% healthy as he did in his most recent start. That's the simple thing here. He's one of your better players, and he's showing no signs of fatigue. And you should keep him at the major league level so he could help you win games.
And before Carver goes, I just want to make this clear. He threw 93 pitches last night. So, he could give you length if he really wanted to and if he forced himself to do it. But obviously the team felt differently about that. And that's a big reason why he's backed out.
Yeah, it's the wrong decision. That's what I'll say. I'm not going to go into a huge tirade about this because like Kevin said, we did kind of expect it. That doesn't mean that it's the right decision. I understand wanting to preserve this guy because he's part of your long-term future. I get it. But this team is the best that it's been in years and years and years. Fans want to see this guy pitch. He's marketable. He's fun. He's great. He doesn't break a sweat on the mound. He doesn't even show flashes of really even getting tired at most times. He carries his velo throughout his entire start. His breaking pitches are all good. He's living off of his breaking pitches, so he's throwing higher effort pitches and still getting through 6 innings with relative ease, save one start against Atlanta, I think it was. So yeah, I mean, it does not make sense to send your best player or best pitcher down when you're in the middle of a winning season. That's what it comes down to. Just like Eli said, they're winning baseball games. Yuri's a big reason why. And what they had said is. And this is a kicker for me. What they had said is, and what was hinted at by Craig earlier today on Twitter, is that they're sending him down because they're not confident about his ability to save the bullpen. But they're confident about Johnny Cueto's ability to save the bullpen. They're confident about Edward Cabrera's ability to save the bullpen when he gets back. I mean, like, it's so up and down. And yes, it is a tough decision. And yes, this is a 20-year-old pitcher that you want to keep around for a long time, want to keep healthy. He did have a minor injury at the end of last year. Yes, all that is true, but there's no defending this. They sent down their best pitcher in the middle of a winning season, and they're going to have to live with that decision.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's been their best pitcher. Like, you could argue Brax, but Yuri's been arguably their best pitcher. Besides the one blow-up start, which was bound to happen against the best team in baseball, he's been their best pitcher. He's been better than Sandy. He's been better than Jesus Luzardo. And again, you can make the argument that he's been better than Brax. You're going from Yuri Perez to Johnny Cueto, who's probably, and no offense, he's going to suck. And then you're going to end up going with Chichi Gonzalez in AAA when he comes back because of how bad Johnny Cueto is going to be. That's literally what's going to happen. And you're going to be holding, and you're going to lose games.
And even when Cabrera gets back, even when Cabrera gets back, like, Cabrera ain't a sure thing. He was bad this year at multiple times. He was very bad with his control and command. I mean, he got hurt, which sucks. Yes, but this guy ain't good. Ain't Yuri Perez either. Like, he's better than Johnny Cueto, of course, because that's not hard to be. But he's not Yuri Perez. So you still are going to see a lower quality of baseball from Edward, definitely from Cueto, from Chichi Gonzalez, from even my boy Brian Hoeing. Like, you're going to see a lower quality of baseball from these pitchers in the middle of a winning season. And just what was mentioned, some of what was mentioned today about saving the bullpen, about all this other stuff, this guy's ready to go, man. Like, he does not need to have this stringent leash on him that says that he can't pitch over 100 innings. Like, the guy's arm's not going to fall off. Like I said, he's not pitching high effort. He looks great every time he's out there, save one start. Like, there's really nothing here to say that this guy can't go further than what they had planned him for. Yes, it would be an oddity, but that's Yuri Perez. He's an oddity. He's not your typical pitcher. He is different, and he showed why he's different, and he got sent down for that. And that's it's wrong. It's the wrong move. It's tough. It's tough to see. I hope they don't regret this decision, but I think they're going to. And I think this makes them much less of a contender to not have their best pitcher on this baseball team. And it sucks.
Yeah, and to address this comments, Kim, both earlier today and then a second time today, she specifically said, they expect Cueto to be back, but as Devin points out, that's not official yet. He's still making a rehab start tomorrow. We'll see how he goes through that before they make this decision. But they have to
4 days, right? Yeah, it's 4 days. Right?
Do something there, and we'll see what they do. I guess it's not uncommon for things to change suddenly based on performance, even though she says something right now. Ultimately, we'll have to see exactly what happens during his final rehab start, but I will be paying close attention to that to see if there are any glimmers of hope for Cueto at this point.
Yeah.
It's a bummer that it has reached this point where he has been so far removed from the pitcher he was just a year ago. But all we can say is, what's happening, and it's every single rehab start he has made.
Yeah.
The stuff just is so diminished from where it was. Frankly, the physical fitness is not what you want from a professional athlete. He doesn't look ready to help the team win, and so that it'd be a shame if his career ends like this. We'll have to find out, but we are very pessimistic, and I think there's reason to be pessimistic as to what that's going to look like when he gets back in the majors.
Yeah, I think the other move that we'll probably talk about here in a second with Robert Garcia coming up today, just as a fresh arm, that's probably going to be your quick hook. He's probably just going to be here to be a fresh arm, and then when they do have to call up Cueto during the break, it seems that would probably be your DFA candidate. He was a Rule 5 guy. Not particularly overpowering with stuff. His numbers look okay with AAA, but he's definitely not a long-term guy, I would say. So I think this is going to be the quick hook when Cueto has to be back on the Marlins, and I think it's 4 days, like we just said. So yes, you're right, Devin, that it's not official yet, but Kim mentioned him a few times. For some reason, they want to see what they have in Cueto at the major league level, even though he's been porous at the AAA level. So yeah, it's going to be a far way to fall from Perez to potentially Johnny Cueto.
Just to address the comment, he got lit up in AA and AAA first off, and he's going to come up either way. They're paying him like $8 million. So not only are they going to try to get their money's worth, or sorry, he's getting paid around. Is it more?
Yeah, I'm just saying, I want to point out that they have paid some of that money already. We're more than halfway through the season. So it is a lot of money, but it's not quite as much as it was before. When you're a team that's trying to win and this money is fully guaranteed, you would hope that the money doesn't come into play. To be fair, he's just had such a long track record, and he was a valuable major league starting pitcher last year. So I get it. But it's such an awkward position just because of how poorly this rehab assignment has gone. It is really hard for me to remember such an extended rehab assignment going so poorly for a player that is so accomplished. They're trying to figure out what they have. It's a tough spot. I sympathize for them. We're going to be critical though, just because of that's just my view on it, is that I don't even think it's worth a shot to bring him up. It's been that discouraging.
Yeah, it's really bad. And
I just hope that it's a quick hook, that once they see exactly what it looks like at the highest level of competition, I just hope that they make a quick assessment based on all the information that points in a negative direction for Cueto.
And the last thing I'll say is you kind of
go ahead, Kev.
Go ahead. No, you go. Mine's something different. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to call it out. Look at this rehab stint. Just look at. We can just give you guys numbers real quick. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen them. Everybody that's listening, 24 innings pitched, 10.50 ERA, 1.96 WHIP, with 10 strikeouts. You don't get much more bad than that. I mean, it does not get much worse against AAA batters. Like it does not get much worse than that. This guy is done. He is washed, cooked, whatever you want to say. Like that it happens. I mean, this guy's at the end of his career. Like I said on Twitter earlier today, you're looking at Yuri and you're looking at Cueto, and it's players that are on the opposite end of their careers. One is proving they can win. One is proving that they can't win anymore. And that's what they're going towards, rather than Perez and stretching him out further in what is a winning season. And that's just the simple mathematics behind that does not make sense.
And we've kind of spoken about, in our group chat about the possibility of bringing in a starting pitcher via trade. And man, you kind of hope they do, because Cueto's not going to be good. Now, if all of a sudden he goes 6 scoreless innings, I mean, we'll all shut up. But I mean, you kind of hope they bring in a Paul Blackburn, a Jordan Montgomery, one of those type of starters that'll give you length, but they've been good. That's like a better version of Johnny Cueto right there. 2 of those guys, or one of the 2. I mean, you kind of hope that, you make some trades, and that's what I'm trying to say, that you need starting pitcher, because Jake Eater isn't ready. Edward Cabrera isn't ready. Well, he's close, but I think you'd rather have a better pitcher than Edward Cabrera right now, who, compared to what he's been inconsistent. Trevor Rogers is yet to throw a pitch, and his injury isn't even with his throwing arm, so that's very concerning. So we'll see, but I do think Miami should look outside of the organization for a starting pitcher. And, inside the organization, I'll mention it, Pat Monteverde. They really should give this guy a chance. That's what I'll say. Give him a little audition. Maybe you could get some value there and trade him.
Okay, so got that negative of Uri out. I know everyone's disappointed. I would say I'm pretty disappointed too, but let's look at some positive. That series versus the Cardinals. Obviously, there's a lot good to talk about that series. So, Eli, I'm going to ask you about this one. Skip's decision, bringing in Yuli late in the game to face a right-handed pitcher, reverse splits. We know we talked about it. Skip used to be with the Cardinals, going with it. So what's your thoughts on that decision? Obviously, it worked out. Do you think it was the right decision? Think he just got lucky and it worked out? What do you think about that?
It was brought up when recording the new Fish Unfiltered podcast with Kevin and Isaac and Wendell. And it is really illuminating to see the players themselves like backing that decision, recognizing that it was, not an automatic thing. To go by reverse splits would be so foreign to even the previous year's coaching staff under Don Mattingly. And like, it's not shocking that it worked out, because the history kind of supports it. This is his success rate. Skips on these moves during the season it's just been incredible. It's not been perfect, but it's been about as good as you can realistically expect by pushing the right buttons in these situations. It's not a coincidence that guys like Gurriel, somebody that coming into this year, I didn't think there was a lot of reason to think that he would be still a valuable major leaguer. Yeah, I think you have to give a lot of credit to this coaching staff for, on the days that they start him, it's not all a coincidence. You can even go to Garrett Cooper. He spoke with the Miami Herald about how all these players the night before they receive the text about whether they're in the lineup or not, and if they're not in the lineup, they get an explanation as to why they're not. The preparation that this staff has, and ultimately, I guess the information that they're using is working out pretty well. That it's like setting up these really nice matchups. And as we see, the 2 more 1-run wins for this Marlins team, continuing to win games at a pace that we basically have never seen before in 1-run games. There's a little bit of luck involved. There's a lot of just great strategy and preparation involved. That was the difference in this series. I predicted a series split. I think a lot of people did, because generally this stuff evens out over time. But I think you saw that the Marlins coaching staff I think they outcoached the Cardinals. And that's really ironic, because just a year ago, Skip was on that Cardinals coaching staff as the second guy under Ali Marmol. And this must have been really satisfying for him as much as anybody else. I imagine that beating his former team like this, especially at a time of the year where the Cardinals are teetering on whether to actually become sellers, and this may push them over the edge ultimately. This was a big series for Skip.
I think this is the cherry on the top of what the Cardinals should do. Miami not only crushed them 15-2, but I mean, you said it, they outcoached the Cardinals. And that third game, I was ready to go. I think half of that press box was ready to go. And when you saw Jordan Walker, who was 0 for 10 in that series, cranked the 2-run bomb off of AJ Puck, which is funny. He still got the win off of Puck. You were like, oof, this looks like it's over. And then that Wendell play may have been the craziest ending to a ball game this year in all of baseball, because you don't see that too often. I don't think you ever see that. Yuli Gurriel probably had the fastest sprint speed of the season for him, and probably in the last couple of years. So it was a very encouraging win. And then obviously Yuri, he was phenomenal. There's no other way to say it. One mistake, it was like a hanging slider to Arenado, and that's where he got screwed over there.
I don't know how that was a hit. Still, I'm still questioning the scorekeeping decision on that. But yeah, a couple other shout outs in this series that were great. Last time I was here, I talked about Jesus Sanchez and his struggles. Man, this guy had a great series. Was really, really good. Did some great things in the series with the home run, the double, all the things that he did, which was awesome. And then Dane Myers comes up. Davis gets hurt. He's pushed into more action, and he handles it like a freaking champion. So this has been awesome. Also, Tanner Scott. Tanner Scott looked really good in this series. Velo's up. He's throwing 100 miles an hour. I think his velo in this series from where he's been the rest of the season was up a full mile an hour.
He was hitting 99, yeah.
Yeah, so hitting consistent 98, 99. Awesome. So you see these guys come in, like you see Sanchez bounce back. You see Myers come up and contribute right away when he's pushed into more action. And then you see Scott doing a lot better. Team's clicking, man. And it's cool to see. Yeah, and then we saw a nice what is now exit for Yuri Perez, at least for now. So yeah, it was a great series. To get 3 of 4 was very good. And yeah, they're starting to put it together the way that they should. So hopefully it continues.
We now have from the ballpark in Miami, we got Daniel here, live from us from the ballpark. Daniel, how's it going? And what's it overall looking like at the ballpark today?
Hey, what's up, guys? It's great to see the second best host make his debut with Nick. But everything here looks great in the ballpark here, as always, with Isaac. But everything looks good in the ballpark. Marlins making some moves. Jeff Linger on DFA'd. Robert Garcia selected. I don't really know much about Robert Garcia. That's Kevin and Alex Carver will know more about that. We're able to talk to Kim, and we'll have more on what she said and her audio there coming out very soon. But obviously the main aspect is Yuri Perez getting sent down with Sean Reynolds coming up. It's just really what they want to do with Yuri Perez and just him limiting his innings until September comes and hopefully having him almost in the playoff role, kind of like what Dontrell Willis did all those years ago. But everything here looks good. We're gonna be able to talk to Justin Bohr. It's Josh Johnson later on in the game, so get ready for that. Isaac is very excited to see Josh Johnson, his favorite Marlin, and be able to have a one-on-one interview with him. Phillies again look great. That BP I saw with them was just really incredible. All those guys, just future Hall of Fame guys, all stars. Kyle Schwarber had so many on the second deck. Nick Castellanos looked fantastic. I am a little scared of how the Marlins are going to fare against this team, just the way they play, just the way they are. Just they look really good, and everyone's playing pretty great baseball with guys like Bryson Stott and Alec Bohm. And that's a guy also that can give the Marlins trouble as a sneaky guy. I know we got everyone: Bryce Harper, Castellanos, Schwarber. Don't overlook Alec Bohm. I think that's the guy that can give the Marlins trouble this series. They may put too much of their focus on their other top guys. Alec Bohm is the guy that can sneakily give the Marlins some trouble this series.
Just looking through our injury updates, quite a few of them. The Cueto one expected. The Edward Cabrera one was nice and refreshing. We knew his rehab assignment was coming soon, but for it to be tomorrow, for it to already be 45 pitches, I think that means maybe 3 rehab starts, and then he's back up with the team. So he should be back later this month. That's a good sign with him. But yeah, still a bummer on Trevor, as we discussed in the previous segment. He's not, he's still a far way away. Tommy Nance, he still exists. Started bullpens, and Max Meyer throwing his first bullpen as well. So they are. Hope is still. What do you think about that, Daniel? Hope still alive? Maybe that the Tommy John survivor makes an impact before the end of the year.
I think he could be. We're going to talk to another Tommy John survivor and Josh Johnson and how he fared coming back. So we could probably talk to him and what Max Meyer is going through. Just to see him through 15 pitches on the bullpen almost so early in his rehab is a very good sign. I'm not sure if he could come back later on this season. Maybe in September, if everything goes well, you could see him coming out of the bullpen. If he does come back this season, I don't think any shape he's going to be a starter. I think that would be asking too much from a guy coming off Tommy John and just with his stuff has really been said even since he got drafted to be an upper end bullpen guy. So if he does come back, the Marlins could have a bullpen of maybe Yuri Perez and Max Meyer with Yuri as a de facto very, very long man.
Speaking of bullpen,
How about Sixto doing his long toss? That's that's probably like the 19th time he started doing his long toss. So I guess there's something to be said for that as well.
We talked to Kim about the deal with Sixto, and she said, I believe not now, or they're still just overlooking what to do with Sixto and his future with the Marlins.
What about Sean Reynolds? Is he there?
Yep, Sean Reynolds is here. Right, he's here. Yeah, Robert Garcia is the guy I was thinking of. My bad. Yeah, but Sean Reynolds is here. I believe he has number 60. I believe here, or something
60.
like that. But he again looks good. Again, very tall human. But Skip says he doesn't know what role he's going to play yet. Can you guys hear Isaac?
Kind of, barely.
All right. Skip mentioned that they're not really sure what role they're going to have with Sean Reynolds yet. So don't really expect him maybe to come out maybe this game. Maybe want to hold him off till tomorrow and see how everything goes there. Hopefully Sandy can go very long. We don't have to use the bullpen. But expect, I would say, maybe Sean Reynolds is sure to make his debut this series. I would. I think so. Maybe if not even tomorrow, I think he will definitely get his shot Sunday.
That you really hope Sandy gives you length, because this bullpen has been burnt out in the last 2 games. They used 7 guys 2 nights ago, and last night they used a good amount of guys too. So we'll see.
Let me ask quickly, Carver and Kevin. Robert Garcia, can you tell us a little bit about him? Because when they mentioned the name Robert Garcia, I blanked. I have no clue who that man is. If he was walking down the street, I couldn't tell you. But can you tell us a little bit about Robert Garcia?
I mean, he's all right. This year's actually, it's impressive. I'll be honest. I didn't like the move. And then when you go into the stats, you see a 2.95 ERA, which is great, and very high strikeout rate. He walks a good amount of guys, and the FIP isn't too encouraging. So he's basically in the Jeff Lindgren role tonight.
Yeah, it's a length arm, Danny. I said it before you got here that it's probably going to be the quick hook when Cueto is called up during the break. So just an easy guy, unfortunately for Robert, a guy that will probably not be around very long, but just a fresh arm versus Lindgren, who of course threw in the last series. So yeah, it is like Kevin said, it's a lot of control and command. Woes, that's his main thing. Doesn't throw with a lot of velo. He has, I think, like 3-4 pitches, but command and control is a main issue. Does have decent numbers in Jacksonville, but like I said, just that guy to call up. He's a Rule 5 guy, another Rule 5 guy, by the way, that they're going to try to get value out of. But I think this will be a pretty short visit to Miami for Mr. Garcia.
Yeah. Again, if you want to know about the Phillies side, really just the way they are incredible. Here you have Giordano here with us.
Giordano!
Oh, wait. What's your prediction? Give me who wins this series, how many games, and MVP.
Phillies 2-1.
Harper
MVP.
All right. You heard it there from Giordano, which is probably going to be the popular prediction with everyone. But anything else you guys want to know before we go? The Phillies, anything for Isaac? Maybe got anything you want us to ask JJ and JB?
How's Isaac?
Delicious.
We're good.
No, that was perfect. They sent their prediction video. I have not previewed it, so we're gonna throw it up on the fly at the end and see if they did a good job. But yeah, they have a special guest with them for their prediction video, and I look forward to sharing that. So good job. Enjoy the game.
All right,
Thank you, Daniel.
Appreciate you.
We have a Bryson Stott interview coming soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I like it.
Get back into it. Thank you, Daniel, from the ballpark. And now we can get started on this Phillies series.
Well,
So
first, let's hop into a quick break. Let's give them 30 seconds of La Pop goodness, and then we'll be back. Yeah, to hop into this very big rivalry series with big postseason implications. Stick with us.
So with this Philly series, I want to track back first. Marlins have played them once this year, 3-game series. The Marlins took 2 out of 3. But Kevin, I want to know, does this series even feel like two of the same teams going against each other? Except at the beginning of the year, the Phillies weren't very strong. The Marlins, it was almost a different team. It feels like going into this game. So do you feel like they're almost two different teams and it's not even, you can't even call it the same series almost?
It's yeah, I think you're right with that one, Nick. They're two different teams and two different teams that have a lot on the line with this series. Miami and Philly, Miami's in second, Philly's in third. I mean, Philadelphia takes 3 here. We're talking about a completely different NL East and a Philadelphia team that's getting hot at the right time. Unfortunately, you had that all-star break in between if you're Philly and they somehow managed to sweep Miami. But, we looked at this series last year. This was the exact same time last year, actually, funny enough, that these two teams played right before the all-star break. Pretty much the same implications where Miami was kind of just hoping to stay there. And obviously we saw what happened. Philly took all 3 against Miami there, but this is different. Miami should be favored, I think. And it's kind of spoiling my prediction there, but you have Sandy going tonight. I believe it's Braxton tomorrow. And then it was supposed to be, I think, Yuri Sunday or Jesus Luzardo on Sunday, I believe. So it's Jesus on Sunday. Yeah. So Miami has good pitching, but Philly has really good pitching too. Zach Wheeler, he's a Marlins killer going up tonight, and we'll see how that goes. And I'm not sure what the rest of the rotation. I know Nola, I believe, pitches on Sunday. So, and then I think it's Ranger Suarez on Saturday. So, should be a good series.
The interesting thing, Kevin, about their pitching, because you call it out, it really is an oddity to me that this team plays in a very, very hitter friendly ballpark, and they're much better at home pitching than they are on the road. Like their ERA on the road is more than a run higher than their ERA at home, which is definitely weird considering where they play. So they play really well in front of their home fans, but on the road, like literally their ERA is 4.57, which is not very good. So hopefully we see the Marlins take advantage of that as they come to Lone Depot Park. Even though they're facing some names, like you said, with Wheeler. They have some names. You see Nola as well. Jose Alvarado's got gas, velo. So you see some names on this team, but they kind of struggle pitching wise on the road. So hopefully the Marlins can exploit that. And
this is you're just looking at the numbers. This looks like a very aggressive team, and obviously shouldn't surprise you. They have a lot of big time hitters. You have Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos. But damn, I mean, if Miami could just get these guys to swing and miss, and that looks like it'll be the name of the game for them, they should be in a good position to win, not only tonight, but the remainder of the series. And they have 3 good pitchers that do that. So let's see what Miami does here.
One thing that Nick brought up is the last time these teams met, which was now almost 3 months ago, and how much has changed, but also how much there are a couple things that are the same, which is that I think going into the season, you would pick Sandy Alcantara as the best player on the Marlins, and you'd probably pick Trey Turner, either him or Bryce, as the best player on the Phillies. With Bryce coming off of his injury, you might pick Trey Turner, and both of them are still really struggling and disappointing, compared to the expectations set on them. Sandy, if you'll remember, in Philly, that was one of his worst starts of the year. He gave up 8 runs. Was it 8 or 9?
9 runs. 9 runs on 10 hits.
9 runs, all of them earned. I remember that, where he started off slow, and then it looked like he settled down, and then they put up another crooked number. So it wasn't even one bad inning; it was multiple bad innings in there in Philly. That was the Devin Smeltzer debut as well in relief of him. So that was the last time that the Marlins. Well, that was the first game of that series, and Sandy coming into this start, he's coming off another kind of shaky one against the Braves, where he still has not settled down. You don't get more than a couple decent starts out of him in a row. It's still so inconsistent. And that is still, it's hanging over this team, especially now, seeing that they pulled the plug on Perez, at least for the time being. Sandy is going to be indispensable to this team moving forward. They need him to be better. And this is another tough challenge because he's facing a Phillies team that has a really deep lineup. Not as deep as the Braves, pretty high up there in terms of non-Braves lineups, in terms of what they can do. And the other note on the Phillies, they've won 12 straight road games. As Carver pointed out, they've been pitching a lot better on the road, and they have swept 3 straight series. And the one before that, they won 3 out of 4. They just coming off a sweep of the Rays. So whatever it is, that sometimes that's random, but it's still very impressive to have a streak like that. consecutive road games against some really good opponents as well. So they are going to be, it's a tough series. It is right up there with that Brave series in terms of ones coming into it where, this is going to be another very big test for a team that is quietly sneaking up on the Marlins in the standings. There's only a couple games between these two. So the Marlins will have to do a representative job in order to actually still be ahead of the Phillies going into the break.
And I believe last season, this was kind of the same case with Philadelphia, where they were kind of slow to get that going. They were, they were mingling with 500, and then all of a sudden, bam, they sweep Miami. And it was this exact same series as last season. And after the All-Star break, they just kind of flew their way into the postseason until the very end, whereas I believe it was between Milwaukee and Philly, where thanks for the third All-Star spot, Philly got in. So we'll see what happens this time around. I remember that series like it was yesterday. But Eli said it. I think this is probably one of the harder series you're going to play this year, and it'll say a lot about this Miami team, how good they really are, because obviously you've beat the teams that you're supposed to beat with the Cardinals, Royals, Athletics, and now you got to beat the big boys in the NL East, and that's Philadelphia. Despite them being right under you in the standings, Philadelphia is a really good team, and you could argue that they're better than Miami.
I want to ask Carver, what's your confidence level going into this first game with Sandy on the mound? It's a big game. Sandy versus Zach Wheeler, and Sandy the last game, obviously Eli just said, give up 9 runs. So the Phillies are really hot as well. What's your confidence in Sandy today?
Yeah, so man, I was just looking at this. It's a great question. This is a team that he's faced the most in his major league career. He has 17 starts against Philadelphia Phillies. It's a team he's faced the most in his career, and he has a 3.23 ERA against them with 90 strikeouts and like 30 walks. So he's done historically very well against the Phillies. So my hope and my level of confidence and my hope would be that this is going to be the start where we see old Sandy, where we see the Sandy that knows how to pitch against this team, that knows how to handle this lineup, and really just be the Sandy that we know as the Cy Young versus this guy that's kind of been up and down, as Eli mentioned, not really able to fully get in the groove yet this season, and we're halfway through the year. So I think this could be a turning point for Sandy. I think it's definitely a great opportunity for him to just return to form, man, and show that he can be that pitcher that we know him to be. I think that will eventually happen. We've been saying that for a while, though, that we think it's going to happen, and it kind of happens, and then it doesn't happen. So, I think this is a great opportunity for Sandy against a team that he's very familiar with to get back to form. So I have high confidence in Sandy tonight. I think he's going to do well.
And going into tonight, obviously Dane Myers, batting 9th, playing center field for the Marlins today. His first couple games, he came in that first game off, obviously, to the Jonathan Davis injury, and we hope he gets better soon because that's really an unfortunate blow to the Marlins. But Dane Myers, really exciting, has done very well in his first couple games. Has hit really good and made some great plays in the outfield. So, Kevin, what's your kind of thoughts on his first game, seeing him? How excited are you for him to probably get a longer stay than he would have if Davis didn't go down?
Man, he's been good. And I was talking to you guys off stream before we started that. It's been impressive. And not only is he always says this every time we walk in, I'm still, he's still in shock that he's even here because it's surreal to him, but he's taken the opportunity and he's handled big league pitching pretty easily. And this is going to be a big test for Dane Myers. If you see him have success early on in this Phillies series, I mean, Miami may have themselves a guy that you could really continue to use moving forward, and especially if he's going to play some quality center field. I mean, at least good enough is what you need, and he's definitely been doing that. And once again, I don't think we've mentioned this since this was obviously in the past years, but yeah, it sucks to hear with Jonathan Davis going down with the injury. He's going to miss the remainder of the season, just how the timeline works for him. Maybe he's back for the playoffs, but aside from that, I mean, Miami's going to have to rely on Dane Myers, and I think he's got what it takes, and obviously still too early to tell, but just off of first impressions, he's looked pretty damn good. And I think the only thing I'll say is he looks a little bit more aggressive than what we saw him do in Double and Triple-A. I'm not exactly sure what the strikeout counter is right now, but I did notice that he was a little bit more aggressive than usual, and I think that's just first series jitters or just trying to get a feel of how the pitching is here at the big league level.
Yeah, no, Kev, you're right. I mean, this is a guy they need now. When he first got called up, this was probably not what he was thinking, that he was going to be starting as much as he has. But now with this injury to Davis and Jazz is out for a while, right? They don't. Who else do they have? And they need this guy to step into the lineup, maybe as more of a maybe not an everyday player, but a guy that's going to play pretty frequently. And he's handled it really well, like you said. I mean, like you see it on the screen, he has such a relaxed approach. This is like a backup breaking ball that comes back right into him, just stays back really well and just takes a simple single. I think this was to center field. So yeah, man, this guy has a simple approach. He had a lower strikeout rate, as Kevin just mentioned, in the minors. Of course, it's natural for that to go up, especially amidst your initial call up to Major League Baseball. But man, this guy has handled this extremely well. And I don't want people to forget that this guy was pitching 2 years ago. I mean, he's brand new to doing this. And it's just like a guy that has had such a strong and very quick build as an outfielder and infielder. He can play first base and third base as well. So he has positional flexibility. He has a very simple approach. He's very relaxed in the box. This guy can play, man. And he's a super cool guy. He's very, very humble. We talked to him on Swimming Upstream. Kevin's talked to him at the park. I know other people have as well. This guy's cool, man. And what he's doing right now is taking it in stride and taking it day by day and really just showing that he's an athlete that can compete and contribute to a winning baseball team. So yeah, it's super cool to see him handling this the way that he is, because I know when he initially got called up, he probably didn't foresee himself playing as much as he already has.
And the only other thing I'll quickly say is with him is, you know, I'm not going to obviously compare him too much to Jonathan Davis just due to what happened, but he's going to give you power. You're going to have another power bat who also could really hit well for contact. So that's a big plus for this team. I mean, and when you get Jazz back, that's going to be another good addition for this team. I mean, Jazz was playing well before the injury. So Miami, little by little, piling up bats. And I'll say this. You called up Sean Reynolds. You called up Eury early in the year. You called up Dane Myers. You're calling up prospects. And I know, Carver, you're going to be very happy about that. But they're calling up guys who are in the pipeline top 30. I mean, you're getting Eury, Sean Reynolds. Dane Myers probably deserved to make it at some point if he wasn't going to get called up anytime soon. So, and I know some of us would have probably put him in our midseason updates in that top 30. So nice to see.
It's just so funny. Yeah. It's just so funny how baseball is, guys. Like, I mean, Dane Myers, you know, 2022, before he started playing positionally full-time, he was almost out of the league and DFA'd. Sean Reynolds, when he was struggling as a hitter, he was nearly DFA'd. And these guys' stories, just one flipping to becoming a hitter and the other flipping to becoming a pitcher. And today, they're both on a winning Major League Baseball team. It's crazy. You can't write that stuff. So it's funny to see how baseball can be sometimes. And these guys are perfect proof that nothing's ever over. So I love stories like this. Dane and Sean are both great people. I'm glad they're here.
And Eli, I want to ask you about Sean Reynolds. I know Carver just mentioned it. Yeah, Dane Myers used to be a pitcher, went to a hitter, and now Sean Reynolds coming up here used to be a hitter, and is now a pitcher. So Eli, what are your thoughts on him? What are your expectations? He's a big guy, throws really hard, throws fast. What are you looking to see from him?
Yeah, he replaces Eury perfectly because they're both like this. He's the only guy who's almost as tall as he is. He's listed at about 6'8". Yeah, I am absolutely thrilled. This caught me a little bit off guard, but not all that surprising because this is the time where they decided heading into the All-Star break, you don't need 5 starters on the roster right now. You just want fresh arms, and his arm is very fresh. He hasn't pitched in almost a week down in AAA, and the last time he pitched, he was shoving down there. It was really impressive. This is an amazing story. It's just as amazing as Dane Myers. It is almost a reversal of Dane Myers, where he started as a hitter. He was hitting for power, but nothing else for years. And then on the other side of COVID shutdown, made him a 2-way player. And then pretty quickly, they made him a 1-way player, just a pitcher, because he was still striking out too much. He just keeps getting better. He has improved consistently the last few years. And I think this is a temporary thing. They're not relying on him to stick in this bullpen the rest of the season. We'll see what happens when, even on the other side of the break, once Cueto comes back and they need a 5th starter. Maybe it lasts a little longer until Nardi and Matt Barnes get back. I'm glad that he's getting an opportunity. He's got a really good fastball. It sits like 96, 97. It could get even higher than that. He's got a very good curveball that he's developed, and he's got an occasional changeup too, where he does throw those 3 pitches out of the pen and he gets strikeouts. He's got more ground balls since he got called up to Jacksonville. He's still kind of an unrefined product here. So I want to keep expectations a little light, even though I like his potential long-term. You don't want to lean heavily on him right now at this moment. I wouldn't be crushed if he does get sent down in the coming weeks when it makes sense to do so. He is it's not just about him as a player. I really feel he is exactly what you want from a clubhouse perspective, a leadership perspective. He's an as I would say, is an 80 grade makeup. That is his best tool. He is on the top of the scale from what you want as a leader and as a teammate. He has been with his organization for almost as long as anybody. He was a 2016 draft pick. He's been with them the whole time before the ownership change. He's been around here, and he takes a lot of pride in actually being part of the Marlins organization as somebody that actually spent part of his childhood in South Florida, in Jupiter, before going out to California. And yeah, he is a really impressive guy. And I just cannot wait to see him get this first opportunity. It's really special. It's really unlikely for it, but he has performed. He has made himself a better pitcher. As Kevin noted, he is a top 30 prospect in this organization, even as a relief only guy, because he has the potential eventually to be a high leverage arm for this Marlins team. And so this is a great first step for Sean.
And that's what I wanted to say. And before I get to the person himself, I mean, you're bringing in a guy who was the Wahoo's closer and guy who pitched in high leverage for Jacksonville and Pensacola and even Beloit. So that's a really good type of pitcher to bring in. If one day, your bullpen's a little bit down, like we've seen these last couple of days, that's a great guy to bring in high leverage if you ever needed it. Obviously, I don't think they'll do that right now. They'll probably get a feel for where he could pitch on this major league squad. But man, I'm very excited to see what Sean Reynolds has got. I think all of us have spoken to him here except Nick, no offense, but no, I think Carver had him on his podcast, Eli as well, and I've spoken to him on Wahoo Media Day and I think FanFest as well, yeah. So amazing human, one of the nicest guys in the organization. I mean, we talk a lot privately off of guys who are some of the nicest in the org, and Sean Reynolds is definitely, I think, at the top of almost everyone's list, along with guys like Troy Johnston and others.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about pitching with energy, and you can kind of see it on the screen right now. Like, this guy gets pumped, man. Like, he's not out there only throwing 198, 99. He's excited. And what really stood out to me when I talked to him on the show in December, going into the season when he was first invited to Marlins camp as a non-roster invitee, is really just his want and need to balance winning and improving in minor league baseball. So, of course, as we all know, minor league baseball is about improving, right? Your development. The win-loss record sometimes doesn't matter. It mattered to Sean Reynolds. Like, he was one of the main guys in that clubhouse for Pensacola that was ringleading it to do what they did last year and continued into this year until he went up to Jacksonville. So this guy continues to bring winning culture. He wants to win, and he wants to contribute to a winning effort every time that he's out there, whether it's minor league baseball or major league baseball. And like Kevin said, just still such a cool guy. You saw Scott Kornberg's tweet from earlier today that after each game, he goes out to the Jacksonville bullpen and cleans it up because he doesn't want trash left on the field. Like, he just does stuff like that. That is just really speaks to just his level of being a human being and just being a super cool guy. Always has time for any of us that want to talk to him. I'm sure he will continue to do that. Super nice guy. The Marlins were very impressed with him in spring training just through bullpens and lives from Skip's comments and stuff. Going out there throwing 99, 100. I knew it was a guy that we could see this year. A little bit caught off guard like Eli as well about the timing. But like Eli also said, it's kind of a thing like, they can fit him in right now because they don't need 5 starters, right? So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect this to be a rest of the season thing. But, man, if he can come up and make an impression, that's going to be awesome for Sean. So I'm glad that he's here. A cool guy, a guy that I've gotten to know pretty well since 2016, as Eli said, when he was with Batavia. So super cool. I'm glad for Sean. And the only other thing I'll say with his pitching style is just his ability to work the entire strike zone. This guy can climb the ladder with 98, 99, and then just bury the curveball in the dirt. Like, that's a real strength of his that I think he will show. And he has the great velo separation from that 99, 98 mile an hour fastball down to like a low 80s curveball. And then, as Eli said as well, he mixes in the changeup. So it's a good mix, man. And it's definitely speaks to a back end ceiling. And I hope that Sean gets there because he's definitely.
And the last thing I'll say quickly is, you see what Scott posted. That was an amazing. I actually did not know about this. Love that we know this. And I know Carver was there. Isaac was there when we did FanFest. I asked him for the interview and he stopped the whole line to do it. I don't know if you noticed that, Alex, but he obviously said, give me 5 minutes. I'll let me sign some people who probably didn't know who Sean Reynolds was. No offense to the fans, but he signed for almost every single fan in that line. And at one point he said, let's do the interview. And he gave me a good, I think, 3 minutes. So Sean Reynolds is one of the good people in this organization. I think we're all rooting for him here at Fish on First / Fish on the Farm.
So going off that pitching side, looking at the Phillies lineup, just before we get into predictions here in a little bit, looking at this Phillies lineup, let's say, Eli, are you looking at the top of this lineup for the Phillies and really scared of that? Or are you worried about these bottom guys like Bryson Scott, Bohm, Brandon Marsh, where it's these three guys can be legitimate difference makers in a game, but then you look at the big names up top and it's kind of just a full lineup. What are your thoughts on this lineup?
I'm going to be interested to see what they do with Stott in this series, because he has quietly been about as productive as any of their hitters, but they usually don't play him against lefties. So he's in the lineup tonight. He usually sits against lefties, and the next couple games of this series is against Garrett and Luzardo. So I'll be curious to see whether or not they bend that rule and actually play him more than once in this series. But for this game, he's somebody to keep an eye on. With in Castellanos, I think it's been pointed out quite a bit, but he is having just a huge bounce back year. He is back to being exactly the guy that the Phillies thought they were signing. A great producer, run producer who it's more singles and doubles and home runs, but it's a lot of hits, just all things considered. Trey Turner continues to be in that number 2 spot, even though his production doesn't justify it. And the underlying stuff isn't that much better. All it says is, he is as fast as anybody in baseball. It doesn't do you a whole lot of good if you're not getting on base. And he hasn't been walking as much as he's accustomed to doing, and just has still not quite clicked with him. So it is scary to think about what this lineup could be if he turns it on. And Kyle Schwarber having just another typical Kyle Schwarber season where he's hitting a lot of homers and drawing a lot of walks and doing very little else. I should point out that his defense in left field is worse than ever. He is, depending on what measure you look at, he might be the worst defensive player in all of baseball this year, Kyle Schwarber. And so if they're going to play him in left field all 3 games of the series, we'll see if they maybe get him a rest day against one of the lefties this weekend. But that's a spot where they're very vulnerable with him in left. He is not aging gracefully on that side of the ball.
I want to quickly mention with the Marlins lineup, Jesus Sanchez. Alex mentioned he had a great year. I mean, not a great year, a good series against the Cardinals. I was paying attention these past couple of times he's hit BP. He works on that opposite field power like if it's a routine for him. It's impressive. And I know that's been the big thing for Sanchez. He wants to hit more opposite field, hits, homers, whatever it is. This guy does it like if it's the easiest thing in the world, and it's very impressive. I was looking at it yesterday, and I was really like, the small times I really focus on BP, that was one of them. And Jesus Sanchez was hitting opposite field like if it was nothing. And man, if you look at someone who's really tried to find a part of their game that they really want to use, and they want to make that the biggest piece of their game, it's been Jesus Sanchez and his opposite field. And I know Brian De La Cruz has also been really good, and obviously Skip and Brent Brown are 2 guys who really speak highly of Jesus Sanchez. And when you talk about some of the best BP, it's probably Jesus with how well he works on what he wants to, and that's the opposite field power. And that's the only other comment I wanted to make that I forgot to make on Twitter yesterday or even mention at all.
I want to ask Carver about this with Luis Ariz. We've talked about him, many times. There's so much to say about him, but I forget exactly who tweeted it out. It might have been Eli or someone like that, but it was Luis Ariz this year has 12 3-hit games, and he has struck out, I think, 12 times or in some form, something like that. If someone could fact check me on that, but you know what I'm saying, where he almost strikes out just as much as he gets 3-hit games. How absurd is that?
Talking to you, Carver.
It is. It's crazy. It's been an insane season for Arias. They definitely won this trade. I love Pablo Lopez. I still like Jose Salas. He's had his struggles with the twin system, but I still like Jose Salas. I like that whole family. They have great baseball skills in that family. Ethan, and then you're going to see Andrew in the coming years as well. So I didn't like losing those guys, but man, you have to be happy with a guy who is almost making history and was making history up until just a little bit ago by hitting 400 as late as he was in the season. I think what we had said a couple shows ago, though, Nick, was it's unrealistic to expect what he was doing by hitting 402, 401 to continue to permeate. It's awesome that it did so as long as it did. But yeah, I mean, the guy just doesn't strike out. He doesn't swing at bad pitches. He doesn't strike out. He waits for his pitches and he takes what he can get. It's a great approach. It's the atypical perfect leadoff hitter. Look at the hard hit rate is 24.3%. Like, he has zero power, none, zero. Like, he cannot hit for power. He will not hit for power. The Marlins don't need him to hit for power because he's getting on base as much as he is. So it's great, man. But what I would also say is that I still think what he's doing even now, what is his batting average at, like 380 or something like that, 385, something like that. I still think I would expect this to come down at least a little bit more because his BABIP is still over 400. So I would still expect this average to come down a little bit and probably live in the 340, 350 range by the end of the season. But that's more than you can ask for because that's what the Marlins wanted. They wanted a guy to get on base. They wanted a guy to hit at the top of the lineup and consistently get on base. And they found the perfect guy to do that in Luis Arias. So it's been great, man. It's a really cool guy too. I just want to have fun. I just want to play baseball and have fun. So he's not feeling pressure. If he hits 340, he's fine. If he hits 400, I'm sure he's also fine. So I don't think he's feeling pressure. I think he's going out there and taking it day by day and just having fun and contributing to a winning team and perfecting his craft, which is great. He doesn't have to be a guy that he's not. They're not expecting him to be a power hitter or a guy that he is not. They're expecting him to get on base, and he's doing that to the best of his ability. And I think it's amazing.
Yep. And I got that tweet exact for it. It was Jordan from the Miami Herald. He has 12 games this season with 3 hits and then 12 games without getting a hit. So that's what that stat was. Pretty wild stat. But I want to ask Kevin, kind of someone that's been almost overshadowed this year. I feel like the top of the order, and his brief stint on the IL kind of got overlooked, and then he didn't come out great. But he's been doing really good lately. Is Garrett Cooper. Had a really good series against the Cardinals. Talk about a little bit about him, how he's been doing lately. What do you expect going into the series?
No one's going to see this article until the offseason, but Eli did say it. And I basically had Garrett Cooper traded like a couple weeks ago when I was doing a Ryan Noda article. But he's heated up. There's no other way to put it. He's playing himself a decent payday in the offseason, I would say. And obviously it's a 1-year deal for him. We'll see what they do with him in that sense towards the end of the year. But, man, it's nice to have that smack in the middle of the order guy, and we saw it in the St. Louis series, and we saw it. The St. Louis series, I would say games 3 and 4, where we saw the top of the lineup, Arise, Soler, De La Cruz, and Cooper really produce, because I believe Sanchez and Cooper were flip-flopped, and Sanchez still produced, and that's what you want to see from that top of the order. And Cooper's been great, and there's no other way to say it. He's really heated up. I don't have the exact numbers, but if you look, April and May, he was all right. I know he started heating up in May, and then June and July, it's been a different Garrett Cooper. So it's nice to see him get it going, and they need him because right now there's not really another first baseman behind him or Yuli Gurriel that you could call up right now. And I know I would love to make the case for Troy, but he's not even in AAA. So they need Garrett Cooper right now, big time.
And after that, I think it's probably about that time for predictions going into the series.
Yeah, let me get that video for you. Oh. This is prediction time.
It's time.
All right, so do we have that video from Daniel and them first? Or are we going?
Yeah, well, really quickly, I want to throw up our super subscriber predictions, and I want to apologize to our viewers. For some reason, in the middle of the stream, it cut off our studio access to the live comments. We've been getting a ton of comments on the YouTube feed. I can see you guys on a separate screen, but you're not appearing here. So that's why I can't throw it directly on the screen. That's why Kevin and Nick and Carver have no idea. But I see Brian, I see TP, and I see Mega, and everybody else in Devon. They've all been chatting like over the last 35 minutes, but they don't appear on our feed, only the older stuff, or at least not for me.
Oh, yeah. The last one's at 5:52.
Yeah, so that's really weird. I don't know. We'll get that figured out for the next time. But there are most of our super subscribers from before
we love you
we got
guys.
started. And so from there, let me throw up this video with Daniel and Isaac and a special guest.
Thank you, Eli. We're here live at BP for Marlins Phillies, talking about this series prediction. I'll go first. I think the Marlins do win this series, 2 games out of 3. But my MVP, I'm going to go ahead and go Trey Turner. I don't know, just in case we're here at Lone Depot, maybe he has some of that magic that he did at the WBC. Isaac.
I believe that the Marlins will lose 2 out of 3, and I'm going to go with Nicholas Castellanos.
The one, the only, the 2-time Jeopardy champ, Alex Aguirre.
So I'm saying the Marlins are going to take 2 out of 3 from the Phillies. And my MVP, he's going to get some payback, a little revenge. It's Sandy Alcantara. Back to you, Eli.
I didn't get a chance to preview that before throwing it up, but I think they did a decent job. So let's get the music up there. I'll start with myself. This one, won't I? Yeah. So I had the Marlins losing 2 out of 3 as good juju from calling up Sean Reynolds, bad from sending down Eury Perez. I think that's going to come back to bite them a little bit. Phillies take 2 out of 3, but I'm still going to give MVP to Sean Reynolds. I have to do that. Let's throw it up to Nick next.
All right, so for me, I'm going the Marlins are taking 2 out of 3, and Jorge Soler, I feel like hasn't gotten in a while, so I'm going Jorge Soler.
And now Mr. Carver.
Well, I was going to say the same thing as Mr. Aguirre, but because he said it himself, I'm also going to go with the Marlins 2 out of 3. Eli picked his guy, so I'm picking mine. Dane Myers. And I will also say as an added prediction, he hits his first Major League home run in this series.
Take us home, Kevin Barral.
Marlins sweep the Philadelphia Phillies. They're going to go into a good all-star break, good vibes, and I will say that Noah's boy, Brian De La Cruz, will be the series MVP. I have a good feeling about that one.
Oh, from here, we got the Marlins last 3 games before the all-star break, 3 against the Phillies. It'll be exciting. It'll be a really big step into this postseason push for the Marlins. And from Fish on First, I'm your host, Nick Turok, with Kevin Barral, Alex Carver, and Eli Sussman. This was Fish on First Live.
See you guys.